Welcome back to the United Pubcast for our first podcast of the season with a new number 7. Obviously, Mason Mount, as sort of standard protocol for the United Pubcast, for anyone who does tune in on the regular. Pretty standard in terms of we'll discuss something and sort of have the news sort of on the tip of our tongue ready to sort of announce something. Okay, no news is really breaking. So we have the discussion about whatever topic. Then we hang up the call. We say goodbye to all our listeners. Then the news breaks about 3 minutes later. And that is obviously what happened this time yesterday. We're having a discussion around Mason Mount and what number he was going to get. I predicted 19, potentially, if Phil Jones was to vacate the 4, Rafael Varane was to take number 4. And I thought Mason Mount would get the number 19 shirt. 2 minutes later, news breaks that he now wears the most famous shirt in world football, which was definitely a surprise to me and a surprise to, I assume, everyone. I had a sneaky suspicion, maybe I didn't think it was going to happen, but I could see a situation where he got the number 11 shirt. I did see that eventuating if the other Mason is to leave, which we'll touch on in a little bit in regards to his current situation. But no one predicted the number 7, so I'll get everyone's thoughts on him acquiring that number 7 shirt. I don't know where Larry is. Unfortunately, Larry's not with us. So I am trying my best running this show. It is a little bit tricky at times, but I will do my best. If you are in the chat, keep us going, and I'll see what type of content we can get out there. But I'll start on Mason Mount, and he obviously has done his interview with Helen Evans at Carrington. He's obviously done all his photo shoots. He's met Eric Ten Hag, which was a good sort of bit of interaction they had just sort of behind the press conference desk. Eric Ten Hag obviously clearly saying, I want you to be an important part of the team. What else is he going to say? I'm sure he does mean that, but I don't think we can read too much into it from there. Then obviously he's done that walk-in interview around Carrington with Helen Evans. And look, a lot of it is very standard. You're thrown real softballs by the interviewer. It's very easy to sound good. Bloody Alexis Sanchez and Angel Di Maria, they sounded great in their first interviews. We know how they did end up. Now, I'm not going to suggest Mason Mount is going down that path. But a first interview, we read too much into as fans, and I'm guilty. I know it's all PR. I know it means nothing. I know they're reading off a script with Mason Mount has been sort of criticised for in recent weeks. But I fall for it. You do love to see it. He's obviously a very well-spoken guy. And he did speak highly. A lot of things, and one or two interesting bits did come out of it in regards to, we do see Mason Mount as a Chelsea fan, as a Chelsea boy. He's a Portsmouth fan. I didn't know that. And he was in the away end during that, with that free kick that Ronaldo hit past David James in 2008. So obviously he does care for Chelsea. There's no doubt about that. But he's actually a Portsmouth fan. So he's kicking Chelsea in the nuts further every single day. I never knew that. So fair play to him. But now he is at the Theatre of Dreams. I'm sure everyone has seen that video of him circulating when he was a kid. Apparently it was only a few weeks after that Ronaldo free kick against Portsmouth, where he talks about Ronaldo and how he hits a free kick. And so look, obviously he does have a deep connection with Chelsea and Portsmouth, no doubt. We don't expect every sort of Manchester United signing to be a Manchester United fan, but it is good that there is some type of connection there, which is good, and he's extremely well spoken. I'll just bring up if I've got any quotes here from his interview. But Ashley, good to see you, mate. Good morning, wherever you are. Let us know where you're watching from. Obviously evening here. It's about 20 to 9 at night in Sydney, but hope all is well and you have a good day ahead of you. And Dion, always good to see you, mate. As always, do appreciate the support. And I'll just bring up one or two things. Here's probably this main one here, which I'm just seeing here in regards to the interview. Kind of just sets the tone in regards to how the move did come about. But he sort of Helen Evans asked, how did this move come about? And he says, several months ago, it became clear that I wasn't in Chelsea's plans moving forward. And once I knew that United were involved, it was my decision and my mind was made up. A massive club, huge iconic players have played here and want to be part of that from the beginning. And obviously getting in early for pre-season was the main objective of mine as well. That's obviously a huge thing for not just us fans in terms of wanting the players on the pitch and regarding getting a sort of good pre-season under their belts. But Eric Ten Hag and the player obviously need a good pre-season, so there's no doubt about that. The interesting point here is in regards, and look, we'll never know the truth. Only Mason Mount and the decision-making at Chelsea know exactly what has gone on. But he says, I wasn't in Chelsea's plans moving forward. That's interesting. Make of that what you will. No, I'm not sure in terms of how you would break that down in terms of there was a contract on the table. Obviously, I think around £200,000 a week at Chelsea, and again, just by reports, £200,000 a week at Chelsea, and it looks potentially around $250,000, potentially rising to $300,000 at United, which is crazy money, but it is what it is. So you would find it hard to think, in terms of, especially with Pochettino coming in, that there wasn't a place for Mason Mount in the squad. Surely then now there's chaos behind the scenes at Chelsea, no doubt, with the new American owners. But it's interesting that he's obviously felt that he wasn't in the plans, and as sort of accelerated a move out of the club. And look, hopefully Manchester United can be the beneficiaries of that. But it's an interesting take from Mason Mount. Definitely don't disagree with him, but yeah, interesting in regards to we sort of get drip fed sort of information in the media over the course of a transfer rumour. But we never actually fully know the true story. But Mason Mount believes Chelsea didn't have him in his plans. So at Chelsea, right? Manchester United, right? I'm not sure. Do let us know your things. Tad, good to see you from Manchester. Nice one. Lucky. I wish I was there. Old Trafford, you can see. Actually, surprising. Looking forward to Mason Mount. He's been Chelsea's best player for the past 4 seasons. I think his work rate is going to work wonders for us, better the quality than Fred and McTominay. And that's a huge thing. I think when you see Mason Mount, in terms of the quality of player he is, obviously on the ball, you think football, you think assists, you think goals, you think creativity, you think as a footballer. I always go back to my main sort of questions in and around our midfield in the last couple of weeks of the season was Christian Eriksen. And not Christian Eriksen on the ball. You'd have to argue maybe similar type of players on the ball in regards to quite technical, quite clever, quite tidy with the ball. It's defensively, and not defensive like throwing yourself in the tackles and winning headers sort of thing. It's just that energy in regards to a lot of us before the FA Cup final were saying we can't play Christian Eriksen. He's just going to get run over the top. He doesn't have the legs to go up and down in an FA Cup final at Wembley. We knew that at 15 seconds. Not blaming that first goal on Christian Eriksen, but it kind of set the tone. And I think if just hypothetically you place Mason Mount in that Christian Eriksen position in between Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount in this interview says his preferred position is that number 8. So you just kind of drop him in there for Eriksen and interpretation on who you think has the more quality. I think potentially quite similar, but you just in regards to the limitations Eriksen has, well, they're not limitations for Mason Mount. So I think it is an upgrade on Christian Eriksen. That's not to downplay Christian Eriksen's influence on this team. I think he was very good for Manchester United, but you obviously need to evolve. You need to progress. And unfortunately, football is a young man's game these days. That's not calling Christian Eriksen old. But Mason Mount, in regards to an Erik ten Hag system, we can have an opinion on why we want this player or want that player. It's not our team. It's our club, but it's Erik ten Hag's team. And I think Erik ten Hag, in terms of, we do know this high press, this energy, these legs, in terms of he doesn't rotate too often in terms of the evidence we have in this first season. So he's going to need someone who can handle the physicality of his demand. So I share your feeling there, Tad. 6 weeks ago, I probably would have said no to Mason Mount. But the more you read into it, and the more sort of you look at it sort of holistically, I do agree. It does come with a bit of excitement. Obviously, that number 7 definitely adds some excitement to it as well. Ashidge, good to see. Obviously, South Shields, UK. So good to have some UK listeners with us. I'm hoping the weather is okay. It is absolutely freezing here in Sydney, very reminiscent of Manchester probably. It's in the middle of our winter, so obviously a little bit different, but hope all is well. Over in the UK, Mount ain't feeling Todd Boehly is running Chelsea. Maybe that always comes back to it in regards to, we always talk about our feelings as fans towards owners or our feelings towards managers, etc. Especially the owners. Just look at us towards the Glazers. You look at Arsenal over the last couple of years in regards to Kroenke, Liverpool consistently towards FSG, and even Bowie now at Chelsea. It's always fans are directed at the ownership. Yeah, the players are thinking it as well. They're probably thinking, hang on, what's happening here? I'm reading this in the media. This is happening behind the scenes. Shouldn't it be done like this? So I think players, I'm sure every single Manchester United player is looking at the Glazers, not just us fans. Now, are they going to be outspoken about it? Probably not, because obviously the owners are the ones signing the check. So you can understand, unless you're Ronaldo, and he goes out and does everything he can to be sacked. But yeah, Mason Mount is probably looking at, I'm definitely looking at Todd Boehly thinking that what the hell is he doing? Mason Mount, as I say, Chelsea's best player in the last couple of seasons, is probably thinking exactly the same thing. So it definitely potentially an impact. And look, there is obviously a need to sell a player, now not sell Mason Mount specifically, but in regards to, we do see what Chelsea did in the last window. Whether that's going to pay off for them or not, I personally don't think it will. But the only thing that did guarantee last season was they had to sell players this window. Fortunately for them, they've been able to offload half their team to Saudi Arabia for massive money. Mason Mount has obviously been offloaded to an English club. So Chelsea were always in a position they're going to have to sell. There's no doubt about that. As I said, just hopefully Manchester United do become the beneficiaries of this. Fingers crossed. Obviously very versatile. Yeah, look, I do see him as simply, and I think I was speaking to Robert a little bit earlier in regards to, we think Mason Mount is attacking player, creative, number 10, etc. But Mason Mount in this interview does suggest that his preferred role is number 8. And I just think in terms of the modern game, and unfortunately you don't want to look across the city of Manchester towards Pep Guardiola is doing, but obviously he kind of does dictate what the modern game will do football-wise and tactical-wise. And in regards to, you do look at the players in terms of how he sort of lines up his midfield in recent times and how that does look like moving forward. We think, okay, you need a balance in midfield. You can't have two attacking players in midfield. You get run over the top. Well, what Pep Guardiola is doing now, in terms of, you just imagine Bernardo Silva, David Silva, Phil Foden, even when he plays in there, there's a very sort of strong push in sort of my feeling that the modern game is moving towards one defensive midfielder and two really attacking players. Now, obviously, you can have a balance in terms of box to box, of course. But in regards to, if you can keep the ball, especially if you're playing out from the back and sort of you're dominating possession, you can get away with having sort of less defensive cover in midfield if you're just going to keep the ball. So that's where I think these more attacking players, I saw a situation, again, this was biased, this was more hope than anything, but I was hoping if Juan Mata was to stay under sort of Ralph Rangnick sort of thing, or if he was going to be utilised more, you could almost play him in midfield. Now, we think as a fan, he's just got to get overrun sort of thing, he won't have the legs. That's a valid argument, of course. But I just think in regards to, if you have the ball, he doesn't need to do the running. I just think if you have your better players in and around midfield on the ball, you're going to sort of lessen the defensive work you have to do. So that is where I do think the modern game is going. So on paper, we'll see Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount and only Casemiro behind. We'll think, that's a bit lightweight. We're not going to have the defensive cover. Well, look at Rodri, and if he has David Silva or Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, these players in front of him, it works because they have the ball. So I just think... who knows if this will work? Who knows? Fingers crossed it does. But I do see a situation where if everyone is fit the first day of the season against Wolves, it'll be Casemiro, Mason Mount in that Christian Eriksen position, and Bruno Fernandes in that sort of more advanced role. We've seen Bruno Fernandes in recent months sort of play some of his better football in a deeper position. So I do share concerns in regards to maybe being a little bit lightweight defensively in midfield, but in regards to modern football and the best minds in the business at the moment, they disagree with that feeling. And who are we to argue? We're obviously going to have an opinion on it, but who are we to argue with them? But one or two other comments before we get the discussion moving on. Fingers crossed Larry can join us. I'm not here at the moment, but I'm holding out hope. If anyone does want the link to the stream, I can shoot it to you. You can jump on and have a chat with us. He's a quality player who'll slot straight in. Definitely the hope. Chris, I've just seen a message you have sent me. I haven't seen it, but I can see on Twitter that there is a message. I'll read it in a sec. I'm sure it's something to do with Mason Mount, but it'll be interesting. I've seen Mason Mount has a banner at Chelsea. There's one or two just Twitter rumours at the moment, nothing concrete by Stratford End flags or anything, but a rumour there'll be a Mason Mount flag in regards to quite contradictory of what the Chelsea banner is. That'll be interesting. Not sure when we play Chelsea at Old Trafford. I'm not sure, Chelsea early on in the season or later, or maybe we haven't at Stamford Bridge. I'm not sure. Ashid, upgrade on McTominay and Fred. Yeah, you'd have to, in quality-wise, there's no doubt about that. And look, I'm a big fan of Scott McTominay, but in regards to that number 8 role on the ball, there's definitely no hiding from the fact that's what an upgrade will look like. And look, 55, 60 million pound. He's gone a bit, well, in saying that Fred was around 50 million pound, to be honest. But I do share that feeling, no doubt. Ashid, and Al, good to see you, mate. We don't play possession-based football. Our players aren't built for this. I tend to agree. I see that line of thinking, and I tend to agree in part. But in regards to over time, I think we will develop into that. Are we there yet? Maybe not. But you look some of our best football last season. It came with sort of very nice football. Now that needs to be done on a far more consistent basis to be called a possession-based team, of course. I'm sure Luton can do it in periods. So it's one of those things. But Erik ten Hag's plan is definitely to do that. And maybe, look, and I've been a fan of David De Gea, maybe the missing piece in this possession-based football is adding that extra player at the back, because suddenly it was like playing with 10 men in terms of always the argument of a goalkeeper playing out from the back. You're either playing with 11 players or 10 players and a goalkeeper. Last season, we were definitely playing with 10 players and a goalkeeper. Suddenly, if you add that 11th, does our football look a little bit different playing out from the back, that open space in midfield for them to keep the ball? Fingers crossed, that's obviously the plan. No doubt that is the plan from Erik ten Hag. How it results, that's another debate. But yeah, look, I'm quite, besides Twitter, like Twitter is its own thing, no doubt about that, but I'm quite pleased with, especially people in the live chat, in regards to, even if you have a sort of not the highest opinion of Mason Mount, the reaction has been from more of the level-headed sort of section of our fan base quite positive in my opinion in regards to, you can have a discussion about him, but in regards to, it hasn't been over the top, he doesn't deserve this, he's woeful sort of thing, get him out of my club already, he's a Chelsea reject. I think the reaction has been quite good and quite sensible. But the reaction which I was going to start the podcast with, but we're 15 minutes, your thoughts. Number 7, Mason Mount, in regards to tie Alejandro Garnacho into this, because obviously Garnacho was dropping potentially 1 or 2 cryptic hints, cryptic clues in the last couple of days that he was sort of maybe lining up a new shirt number, potentially being number 7. A lot of fans wanted Garnacho to be the number 7. Mason Mount, number 7. What do you think? Because the position on the field, I actually quite like a number 7 or number 11 not to be like, and I'm very pedantic about my numbers. Everyone knows about Victor Lindelof. I hate him wearing number 2 at centre back. I'm very pedantic with things like that. Number 7 and 11, I don't mind in midfield. Obviously, in my mind, they're wide players, of course, and I do like that. But I can afford them being in a central area. You look at Eric Cantona wore the 7 shirt through the middle. Brian Robson, potentially one of our best number 7s, wore it in a central area. So I have no problems with Mason Mount's position in terms of that number 8 role, wearing the number 7 shirt. The issue or the questions around Mason Mount wearing the 7 shirt is, it's Mason Mount. Does he deserve to wear it? And the question I'll throw to you in the chat is, well, answer it. Well, what do you think of Mason Mount wearing the 7 shirt? But also what deserves it? Like in regards to, did Ronaldo deserve it when he rocked up from Sporting Lisbon? I'm not sure. Like, obviously, in hindsight, yes, he did. But in regards to, we all sit here and say Alexis Sanchez didn't deserve it. Angel Di Maria didn't deserve it. Well, they had done far more in the game than Cristiano Ronaldo when he arrived. And I'll put Mason Mount in the Cristiano Ronaldo category. But what had Eric Cantona done? Obviously, Eric Cantona had won the league with Leeds. But what deserves the number 7 shirt? Because a lot of the people are saying Garnacho. Well, I don't agree with that, but I can see the line of thinking. But then I'd argue, well, what has he done to deserve it? Not to say he shouldn't get it, but it is interesting. So I'll throw it to you and get 1 or 2 comments. Garnacho shouldn't be anywhere near the 7. I agree with that. And look, I like Garnacho. I think my fear with Garnacho is I fear we're potentially going to be burned by him in a couple of years' time. I think we give him the 7 shirt. He sort of goes on to greatness. He looks his world-class beater. Florentino Perez and Real Madrid come knocking, and Garnacho will be on the first flight to Spain. So I feel I don't want to get too attached to Garnacho. That's maybe where a lot of my hesitancy around sort of praising him too much comes in, because I have a feeling he's off to Madrid with Kylian Mbappe in a few years' time. But look, hopefully he gives us a few good years, and hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully I'm wrong and he commits his future. Well, he has just committed his future, hasn't he, with that contract? But I agree, too soon for Garnacho, the number 7 shirt. But I'm saying that, is it too soon for Mason Mount? I'm not sure. Chris has got big shirt number to fill, no doubt about that. Al, do you think Erik ten Hag wants to play possession football or transition football with fast athletic attackers and counterattacks? It's hard. A lot of people talk about this. I think it's the one game. I think it's both. I think in certain games you're going to keep the ball, but I think in the more physical games, or I wouldn't say more physical, but the maybe tough games where you start, you don't want to say this as Manchester United fans, but you start underdogs. When you go to Anfield or you go to the Nou Camp or you go to the Etihad, where you're going to be under the pump, it's not going to be your game. That's where you sort of rely on your athleticism and your sort of transition football. When we're at home to Luton or we're at home to Bournemouth, okay, you're going to have your possession-based football. So I think it's ideally, if Erik ten Hag had his World 11 and perfect pitch and perfect ideal scenario, it would be a possession-based football. I think very similar to the way Ajax ideally play. But is that often suitable? Is that realistic a lot of the time? Unless you're Manchester City. Now, the aspiration, you don't want to sound like David Moyes, but the aspiration has to be like the best team in the world. Unfortunately, that is Manchester City, and that is a possession-based football. But I think Manchester United is very... You do need to move with the times. You do need to look forward. You do need to be a modern sort of... You do have to have a modern approach to football. But I go back to Manchester United's core values in regards to the way we play. We're brought up on, I'm sure everyone in the chat, brought up on fast attacking counterattacks. And that's counter-attacking football is such a sensitive topic in the modern game, I feel, in regards to people use it as a real criticism in terms of if you win a game 1-0 or you score a goal on a counter-attack, that team is met within the media or fans sort of reaction to that as, oh, they just parked the bus and they caught them on the counter. You look at Manchester United for 20 years under Sir Alex Ferguson, our greatest moments came on the counter-attack. It's not a case of... Now, there is a case of parking the bus and looking to sort of hit a team on the break, but that quick sort of winning the ball in transition and sort of attacking quickly is also a counter-attack. So I think it's a bit of both. I think if Erik ten Hag gets his players he wants, I think we'll see sort of a more dominant display more often. But in regards to, you do need all the tools. In regards to sometimes that game plan won't be sort of realistic in terms of the situation you find ourselves in. So I think in terms of the squad, in terms of Manchester United, have billions to spend. You know what I mean by billions to spend, but we have near unlimited sort of resources in regards to we should have the squad capable of providing both sides of the game. But look, it's a hard one. I would need to sit Erik ten Hag down on the podcast and get his thoughts. So we'll get into Onana. Onana, it does look like something's happening at the moment. Manchester United play in about a week. I think about a week and a day's time, a bit over a week's time. We have a game against... Is it Leeds or Arsenal or someone? It might be Leeds. We don't have a goalkeeper. I'm not sure. So David De Gea legally can't play for Manchester United at the moment. So I'm not sure who's going to be lining up. So Onana does. If I'm a betting man, I wouldn't have said this a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but at the moment, I'm probably quite confident Onana gets done. Now, my my impatience with Onana at the moment, not with him personally, but with the deal, is this is a deal that was so frustrated as fans. Players need to be in before pre-season. They need a pre-season under their belt. A huge thing this pre-season in terms of the way we want to move forward as a team. With Onana, he needs to be in for pre-season. The reason being so much, obviously, the players are going to be doing a lot of fitness work, no doubt about that. But a huge part of pre-season for Erik ten Hag will be playing out from the back because it's going to change the way we play the game. And when the season kicks off, we're going to be playing Saturday, Wednesday. There's going to be no time for training. You're going to play. You're going to have to recover. You're going to have to travel. You're going to play again. So you can't train pre-season. Is the only time you can really train. And I just think so many of the training sessions during pre-season will be based around the goalkeeper playing out from the back because it's going to be work we simply didn't do when David De Gea was there. And you can't do that if Onana's still at Inter Milan. So to get the most out of our sort of pre-season preparations, it's so important. Every player, obviously, we want all our players. We want Harry Kane in to get a full pre-season. That's not going to happen. It's good we've got one of the targets in Mason Mount. But a huge thing for me in this preseason, get Onana, whoever the goalkeeper is, let's say it is Onana, get him in straight away so he can sort of implement his style and everyone can get used to it because there's got to be mistakes. There's going to be costly mistakes with Onana. And maybe not so much him, but in terms of the players around him being on different wavelengths, not understanding certain patterns sort of things. So we need as many preseason games as we can to sort of weed out those issues. And at the moment, he can't do that if he's playing for a different club. So hopefully Manchester United can get their act together and get that sorted. I have a feeling it will get sorted. Will it get sorted quick enough? I don't have faith that will happen. It should. Let me know your thoughts. I'm a little bit hesitant, but Dion Mount seems a level-headed young man. If he wants a 7, then go for it. Very well spoken in his interview. Very well spoken young man. Fair play to him. And we have Kovar can start pre-season. I do like Kovar. As I mentioned him a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to meet him in pre-season in Melbourne. He's a big guy. He is a monster, and obviously had a very good season in the Czech Republic. Been their first choice goalkeeper over there for his club and winning the league. So obviously great experience for him. And look, obviously can't go into Manchester United season as the first choice goalkeeper, but in terms of the backup, you'd love to see him. I spoke to him briefly there, and you could definitely tell. Yeah, now obviously he's representing the club. He's at a club event sort of thing, so obviously he's got to speak highly. But I did get the sense he was sort of genuine in regards to his sort of feeling towards Manchester United. He definitely enjoyed being there, and he sort of spoke really highly about his time at United. So you'd love to see Kovar do well. Like any academy product, we obviously brought him in a young age, and obviously performing very well. Obviously, to be a goalkeeper in a winning league or a title-winning team, you have to have something about you. So fair play to Kovar. And I'd like to see him on pre-season, like any other players who performed well on loan, Ahmad, Hannibal, etc. It'll be interesting. As I said, we're playing just over a week. I don't know who the game is against. Let me know in the comments. I think it might be Leeds. Unfortunately, we can't play Leeds during the season. They're not in our league anymore. But one or two of the other topics. So Onana, in regards to the quick evaluation in regards to him, one or two sort of reports from Italy, and I think Fabrizio Romano has put one out as well in regards to the valuation is a difference of around 10 or 15 million at the moment. It's very much what the Mason Mount situation was. You narrow that down, you think it probably will get done. I have full confidence that will. It's my issue is the timing. That needs to be done quick, smart. Do I have faith? Unfortunately not, but I do think we are lining up with a new goalkeeper against Wolves at the start of the season. And that does bring quite a bit of fear in terms of the unknown. But also the unknown does bring excitement. There's no doubt about that. But the next bit in regards to a little bit of news today, Mason Greenwood hasn't returned to Carrington because all the players who weren't on international duty were due back today. So the players, I know Donny van der Beek, etc. I think there is a list. You should assume that Eric Bailly plays like that. All the players who are on loan who didn't have their internationals, I assume they're all back at Carrington today. Mason Greenwood is obviously one that was due back in regards to he's contractually contracted to Manchester United. He's had a full holiday. He's had more than a full holiday in regards to not having those international games. He's due back at Manchester United, but Manchester United have kept him away. And just your thoughts on that, because I understand this is a sensitive topic, no doubt, and Larry and I have discussed it at length, but in regards to a decision just has to be made. It has to be made, whatever it is, even if it's a horrible decision, make it so we can move forward. It's not helping Mason. It's not helping his family. It's not helping the club. It's not helping the buying club or the loanee club. This needs to be sorted. And it's just my fears. I've said for weeks, everyone said, oh, no, this will get sorted. The club will put an announcement out. I just have a fear this is what it's going to be. I just have a feeling it's going to rumble and rumble and rumble on. And there's going to be nothing. We're going to see a photo at December where Mason Greenwood's training on a park himself. And, oh, geez, yeah, remember Mason Greenwood? What happened there? I think the club are just going to bury this as much as they can. It makes no sense. I'm sure that won't be the case. But what evidence do I have to suggest I'm wrong? I'm not sure. But your thoughts on Mason Greenwood in regards to, as a club, did you expect an announcement today? Did you expect to see him back at Carrington? Do you want to see him back at Carrington, even if he is to go on loan? Should he be training with the team? That's interesting in regards to it's a messy part because David De Gea is not welcome back at Carrington at the moment because he doesn't have a contract. Mason Greenwood does have a contract. So a tricky situation there, but technically he should be working for Manchester United at the moment, but they have kept him away and no closer to an announcement. I think Laurie Whitwell put something out about half an hour ago so in regards to a decision will be made before the start of the season. I'm sure he put something out 6 months ago. A decision will be made before the end of the season. A decision will be made before pre-season. And here we are. I can bet you bottom dollar at the start of the season, a decision will be made for Mason Greenwood by the end of the year. And I'm just thinking, what's happening? Like, you just want to be a fly on the wall in these meetings. The meeting should have only lasted, whatever side of the fence they fell on, it should have only lasted 5 minutes. It's lasted 5 months, 6 months, a year. Like, I'm just thinking a decision must be made, and they're dragging it out. And I don't know why they're dragging it out. I understand the sensitivity around it. I understand they do have to get this sort of legally right. But it's just a mess, and it's a shame how it is unfolding. And so Chris here, he can't come back. Even the players unfollowed him on social media. Yeah, look, I don't see a situation where he trains at Carrington or the players welcome him back. A lot of people do, but I do agree with you there, Chris. I definitely will be going through him in one of the first tackles of pre-season. I'm sure Lisandro Martinez will see one of his knees and give him a nice welcome back. But loan each way with Atalanta for Højlund. It does seem like Italy are sort of leading the race potentially in regards to if he is to leave on loan. One of the Italian clubs, Jose Mourinho and Roma. Obviously, Juventus is always sort of rumoured about. You did see potentially who was Roma and Jose. Scott McTominay was linked with Roma and Jose Mourinho. I think that's an interesting, and even as a fan of Scott McTominay, that's something you'd have to sort of look at. Yeah, that's a move. And obviously Jose Mourinho has spoken so highly. He created an award for Scott McTominay in that 16-17 season. So there's maybe something, a very easy rumour potentially in regards to a lot of fans want rid of Scott McTominay, so link him with a move away with a realistic option. It's interesting how realistic it is. Has Jose Mourinho picked up the phone? I'm not sure. But interesting one there. But yeah, Greenwood to Roma, Greenwood Juventus, you could definitely, in terms of if you're playing Football Manager, Dion, yeah, you could do a straight swap with Højlund, no doubt about that. But will that happen? I'm not sure. Chris agreeing he needs to go on loan. Jamie, morning. Good to see you, mate. Hope all is well with you and everyone. And Ashid, Sir Jim Ratcliffe just needs to walk away hanging around like a scam. Well, we'll get into Sir Jim Ratcliffe now in regards to, I did bring up here in regards to, he has done an interview. His interview wasn't done in regards to the takeover. I think he was at something else. He was at maybe a launch for something, or some sponsorship thing, or it's a book unveiling. I don't know where he's actually done, but he was sort of quizzed on the takeover and sort of his latest thoughts. And yeah, I'll bring him up here in regards to, we don't often get nothing. We get all these rumors. We get absolutely nothing out of these people. We've got nothing out of Qatar. We think we get stuff out of Qatar. We get nothing. We get rumors. We get nothing. You get no direct quotes. You get no direct quotes for Sir Jim over the last, feels like 12 months, really, or the last 6 months, whatever it is. We've actually got direct quotes from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And they are the first one, pretty much saying nothing. I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't say too much, but there is still a process, and we are in the process. So that's an interesting one here in regards to, obviously you can see here a little bit lower as well. I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't say too much. Still a process. We're in that process. We have a good offer, and we've met with the Glazers a couple of times. So what do you make of that in regards to direct quotes? So we haven't heard from either bit. As I said, we think we hear from Qatar. We've never heard anything besides the official statement from Qatar when Ineos released their statement and Qatar released their statement. That's been the only direct contact they have had with the media. As I said, Qatar are bounded by the same NDA. There's no doubt. So I'm hearing from them in whatever context. Do we take any value in that word, in those words? I'm not sure, but hearing from them is a little bit different. I wouldn't say it's an update in regards to, has he really said anything? Probably no, not really. But hearing from the horse's mouth does throw a little bit of a bit of a spanner in the works, not a spanner in the works, but just a different angle. I don't think like the Mason Greenwood situation. I don't think we're any closer to a conclusion of this. Like everyone says, oh, it will be done, and I agree, it will be done, or it should be done, etc. Will it? No. I just have a feeling this is well into the season. At the moment, I'm thinking turn of the year, and that's obviously the pessimist in me that's trying to jinx it to try and get it done tomorrow. I understand that, but would you be shocked if it's the end of the year and the Glazers still hanging around? No. And I just think that's depressive. So I don't know. And again, surely it's done before then, I know. But I've just been burned so many weeks that you hear, even sort of, I wouldn't call Rio Ferdinand a reputable source, but even reputable sources are, it's nearing a conclusion. We're getting close. Yeah, in 48 hours, we're going to hear something. There'll be a breakthrough. Watch the stock market. Watch the stock price. That means this is going to happen. Nothing's happening. Even Sir Jim just saying, yeah, not much to it. We're in the process. Not much is happening, though. And I'm just thinking it is quite... I wouldn't say, well, it is concerning, but there's no real update. So I would say it's a concerning update, whether you want Sir Jim or you want Qatar. It's just interesting. Maybe Qatar, are they going to sort of fire back with a quote about something? I'm not sure, but who are we speaking to? Who's going to give the quote from Qatar? Obviously, Sheikh Jassim. Actually, there was, I'm not sure where the news came from. There was something in and around Sheikh Jassim. Now, how reliable this information was, I'm not sure, but it was something in and around the Premier League being a little bit hesitant, not the Premier League, sorry, the Glazers and the Rain Group being a little bit hesitant in regards to the funds coming in from Qatar, how realistic it is. Now, obviously, Qatar have the money, but in terms of where this money is coming from, is it realistically going to be handed over by Qatar? Because at the moment, the face of the bid is obviously Sheikh Jassim. Now, let's say he's handing over $6 billion. Obviously, the rumour suggests a little bit less than $6 billion, but let's round it off at $6 billion. He's paying in cash to buy the group, to buy Manchester United. He's worth $1 billion. So obviously, I think they're well within their right to have a look, or hang on, does he really have the money? And I think that does look like, which I've always sort of said in terms of a lot of people give Sir Jim, and this is not me siding with Sir Jim, but a lot of people give Sir Jim so much, or Sir Jim and Ineos so much hate in regards to they're not rich enough to buy Manchester United. Well, the face of the bid for Qatar is only worth $1 billion. Ineos and Sir Jim sort of are worth so much more than that. So who are the ones really with the money here? Now, obviously, Qatar obviously backed by the government. It's not a Sheikh Jassim bid, but we're told, we're promoted that it is by Sheikh Jassim. So if the Rain Group are going down that feeling that Sheikh Jassim is the one handing over the cash, I think they'd look at his net worth and think, well, hang on, he only has $1 billion. How's he bidding $6 billion? Now, obviously, he can, in terms of he can borrow the money, which Sir Jim is obviously doing in regards to that's how these billionaires obviously do their business. But it's interesting. Will we question Qatar's, or Sheikh Jassim, sorry, will we question if he has to borrow the money to buy Manchester United? I don't think we would. We're definitely going to question if Sir Jim had to borrow the money. Now, Sir Jim has openly admitted he's going to borrow the money. Sheikh Jassim has said, no, he has the cash. Now, obviously, we know it's not Sheikh Jassim, it is Qatar. But it's interesting in regards to, is that really an update? It's not really an update from either side of things, I don't think. But what are your thoughts? Do you think we are nearing a conclusion? I don't think that's... Do you think we're moving along at some type of pace, or do you think we're just at a standstill and nothing is happening? Okay, because I'm not sure. My feeling with the furthest thing from in the Rain Group over in New York, wherever this deal is being done, so I have absolutely no clue how this is working or what is working behind the scenes. My gut feeling, sitting on the other side of the world, is just nothing is happening. The Glazers just happy thinking, okay, you know, if we roll this out for another 6 weeks, maybe they'll come in with a little bit more of a bid, so another sort of carrot dangled for us to take. But my gut feeling at the moment is nothing has been done, and that is extremely frustrating, because we can see the positives of what Erik ten Hag is doing, but we've seen positives what every manager sort of could foresee. Even if you like the manager or didn't like it, they had a plan, and if that plan was able to eventuate, you don't know what could have happened. But every manager, even David Moyes to an extent, but let's throw him out, but even him to an extent, Louis van Gaal definitely, Jose Mourinho, Solskjaer, Rangnick, the first part of it now with Erik ten Hag, you can see what a potential plan looks like in 3 or 4 years' time. They never get to that stage because they're handcuffed by the Glazers in these first 2 seasons, or when they sort of qualify for the Champions League. Their handcuffs are tightened, and it's rinse and repeat. We know the result of what happens there. And I just think you do look at how sort of competitive the Premier League is this season, or will be, in terms of there's going to be 7 or 8 teams fighting for top 4. You might have a very good season, finish 5th on the last day, and think, well, hang on, you've missed out on the Champions League. The manager has to be sacked now, and whether that be contractually or we're just not happy. I'm not sure. It's such a competitive season. It won't happen. Fingers crossed it does. But there's a situation Manchester City don't finish in the top 4. Could you imagine there's a 3-horse race for the title race? 3 teams are going for it. City lose a couple of games in that run-in. They're focused on the Champions League. Then suddenly they lose another game. They suddenly drop out of the top 4. that won't happen. But in terms of it's a sort of realistic possibility. Now, Pep Guardiola going to get the sack then? Probably not. But we could be in that situation. Arsenal could be in that situation. Chelsea could be in that situation. So we definitely will be in that situation if the Glazers are in charge. I think that's the concerning bit. There's no sort of difference in our seasons and our stories over the last 18 years. Unfortunately, there's no doubt about that. I don't think the Glazers care where the money's coming from. They just want the money. So, yeah, look, no doubt about that. I think in terms of this story and whether the story is reliable or not, I'm not sure. But it's not so much they care where the money's coming. Is it coming from oil money? Is it coming from the state? Is it coming from someone's personal bank account? I think they're probably questioning, does he have the money? Now, that's a stupid question asking about Qatar. Do they have the money? Of course. But let's say we are talking about an individual. Yeah, I think there's legitimate questions. Does he have the money? He's obviously only worth $1 billion. Yeah, it's hard to say that with a straight face. But if he's only worth $1 billion and he's bidding $6 billion, I think it's worthy. Okay, where's the extra 5 going to come from? And I just think that's a legitimate question. Now, again, I don't know how these discussions sort of take place and what the financial sort of ramifications are for the Rain Group and Sheikh Jassim, but yeah, interesting in regards to we've finally heard from someone. I think maybe we hear something from Qatar in the next week or two in regards to Sheikh Jassim, but I don't know how they sort of get a direct quote out there in regards to we never hear from Sheikh Jassim. So who are we really going to hear from? Maybe the 9-2 Foundation, maybe they release something potentially. But as I said, this is the first time since and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think we've heard from them, whether it be Qatar or Sir Jim Ratcliffe, since their initial statements back in, would have been probably December, in terms of sort of financially committing to the bidding process. Ineos released a statement and Qatar released a statement. And since then, I don't think we've heard from them. This is the first quote. And as I said, there's nothing in these quotes. He's saying absolutely nothing. That's not to be critical of him, but they're just, I've signed an NDA, can't say anything. That's the update. So very interesting. But Dion, Factjol and Avram, Valley United, potentially 10 billion. That is my fear. And look, that sounds stupid at the moment because what's Manchester United's value really? Probably, I don't know, you'd say maybe 4.5 to 5 billion. They're obviously trying to get that 6 billion, which is obviously the Qatar and Sir Jim obviously having to pay way over. So let's say someone buys us, Qatar buys for 6 billion, we're worth 6 billion then. We're obviously worth what someone's willing to pay. It's crazy to think, we're worth 10 billion. I truly think, and I don't know how the club valuations or business valuations sort of are forecasted, but I do look at it and think, in terms of the way football is going, the way finance and the way money is going, I do see a situation. Could you imagine Manchester United as successful over the next couple of seasons? Could you imagine Manchester United have a brand new stadium in 2 or 3 years? I think if we're 6 billion now and we become a successful team with a new stadium, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but am I stupid to think it might be worth 10 billion? And I just think, well, if the Glazers are around for that, well, that'd be stupid not to stay around. Of course, I think that is maybe where they're sort of in a little bit of a tug-of-war with the family, in terms of the family say, get out now, we can get 6 billion. You're stupid to think we'll be worth 10 billion. But maybe you do look at the bigger picture, and with the way football is moving, maybe there is a situation where we're worth 10 billion. And look, that's crazy. That's obviously, it means Manchester United is on the right path, but you don't want to be on that path with the Glazers, unfortunately. But it is a hard one. Charlie here, Sir Jim is in ain't for the money, nothing else. Not sure if I read that right, but I'd say is in it for the money, nothing else. It's interesting in regards to, is he going to want to return on his investment? Probably not. In regards to Ineos will obviously be taking over the club. And Sir Jim is 71, I think. I think he's into his 70s or maybe around early 70s. He's not going to be selling the club in 5 years' time for a profit. So is he in it for the money? I can understand sitting, if you're on Qatar's side. I'm not picking sides here. If you're on Qatar's side, you'd obviously look at Sir Jim and say he's in it for the money. I think realistically speaking, sitting back, no. I think it is a project in terms of, obviously, it's almost more of a status thing, which obviously is a status thing for Qatar as well. It's going to be used as a brand for Qatar. So it's in my opinion, it's status for both in terms of what bigger sort of puff your chest out moment can you have as a businessman owning the biggest football club in the world, or having the highest sort of sporting takeover. I don't think no other sporting club, maybe one of the NFL or baseball clubs, potentially around 5 or 6 billion. I'm not sure, sold maybe a year or two ago. I'm not sure if Manchester United is going to surpass that or not. But I think it's a status thing for both. I don't think either are in it for the money. Qatar's money potentially in terms of different fields 15, 20, 30 years down the track in regards to attracting people to the Middle East. And so Jim, I don't think is looking to sell for a profit. I think both want to just be owners of Manchester United. Who knows how it's going to play out? Who knows? We could be having a discussion in 6 months. It's still the Glazers. Who knows what's going to happen? It won't be worth 10 billion without major investment. That's the Glazers stumbling block at the moment. They see us at 6 billion now. They do see us at 10 billion, but they need to invest. But they don't have the money to build the stadium at the moment. So they want someone to come in and build the stadium. This is a very sort of easy way of saying it, in my opinion. To come in and build the stadium for them, and obviously increases the value. And that's obviously going to take investment. They are unable to do the investment by themselves at the moment. And that is their stumbling block in terms of if you go back to that initial statement from the Glazers where they wanted to sell the club, selling the club was a very small part of their statement. The rest of it was all strategic investment and other opportunities and other avenues. Their ideal plan over the last 2 or 3 years, even throughout the European Super League fiasco, was to get investment. That's why we've heard groups like the Carlyle Group, the what's the other group? The Elliott Group, financial institutions like that have always been sort of in and around the mix because that has always been the Glazers' goal. They have Joel and Avram particularly, want to stay around and just have that extra investment. You could argue potentially why Sir Jim looked to be leading the race for so often because the Glazers do want to hold on in case there is a situation, if that investment does come in, we do turn into a £10 billion club in a couple of years' time. So who knows what's going to happen, unfortunately. Mum's here. Good to see Mum. In the chat, everyone say hi to Mum. I hope whoever buys the club, that they do the right thing by the players and the fans. It's the first thing they have to do. I think when they do, whoever buys it, whether it's a Jim or Qatar, do come in, I think the first thing we'll do here is the 5 things a new owner has to do. And a lot of the things are very superficial things, in my opinion. I think the first thing they need to do is sort of set up a press conference outside Old Trafford. They need to be there, whether that be Sheikh Jassim or Sir Jim, sit down in front of the megastore at Old Trafford and conduct a press conference and directly tell the fans what's going to happen, what the plan is. Because if you look at in terms of our desire, or the majority of our fan base, the desire for Qatar, in terms of coming in, the only evidence we have, obviously Malaga, who they've relegated. It's obviously not talked about too often in regards to their running of Malaga, but let's say that the prime example of PSG and the way they have run PSG, whether you want the club run like that, that's up for a personal opinion. I personally don't. That's not to say I don't want Qatar, but I don't want it to run like PSG. But if you talk to PSG fans, they hate Qatar. They hate the owners. So I'm just thinking, hang on, if we're looking at PSG fans and they hate the owners, we think, well, do we really want them? Because the same owners coming in. So I'm just thinking it's interesting in regards to, well, Mum says there, the new owners, whoever they are, need to do the right thing by the fans. And I'm sure the first couple of years it will obviously do the right thing by the fans. A lot of that will be PR and there'll be excitement, no doubt. And anything is better than the Glazers. So it will feel like they're doing the right thing by the fans. But doing the right thing by the fans is making a successful team on the pitch. We'll put a lot of our sort of morals and sort of everything to the side if we have teams winning 3 points on a Saturday. That fixes a lot of things in the world. And Chris, no way the club is worth 10 billion. Look, definitely at the moment, there's no doubt about that. But United ain't worth 10 billion unless 100,000 stadium, training ground, and football ground for the under 21s. That's why I say at the moment, definitely not with the. Sir Jim and Qatar don't think we're worth 6 billion. That's why there's been no sale at the moment in regards to when they're not willing to part with that type of cash. But that is where you think, well, if that investment does go in, if we do have a new stadium, if we're winning on the football pitch, which has sadly sort of, I think, affected our value. Now, obviously, we're a huge sort of marketing brand at the moment, but we're not a successful team. So I think if we're a successful team, a new and improved stadium, and then what Charlie says there in regards to women's stadium, youth stadium, training centre, etc. If you add all that on top, and that's going to take years, and that's going to take significant investment. If that all that changes, well, it's going to add 2 or 3 billion onto the price tag, onto the valuation of the club. So at the moment, yes, we're nowhere near a £10 billion club, but you can see a situation. Well, it's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of money. But there is a situation where Manchester United does turn. Now, in terms of the way everything is going, I'm sure Liverpool will be there one day. But in terms of first past the post, there's no doubt that United could very well be worth 10 billion in the future years to come. Dion, Chris, 20 years ago, no one could have foreseen the club being worth 5 billion plus. And that's where, look, I do agree. That's where I think Arsenal, they could see a future where they're worth 10 billion. Real Madrid probably see in their immediate future, they could be worth 10 billion. It's just one of those things. Obviously, the new camp in Barcelona, the Bernabeu in Madrid has been renovated. I think Barcelona aren't playing at the new camp this season. I'm not sure where they're playing the games. I'm not sure where Barcelona play their games. If they're not at the new camp, you'd assume maybe Espanyol. Would they play at Espanyol's ground? Not sure. There's a bit of a rivalry there. I think that'd be a little bit like Man United playing at the Etihad. So I wouldn't mind getting Barcelona in the Champions League, but if they're not at the Nou Camp, it won't have the same feel. So maybe stay clear of Barcelona in the Champions League this year round. But that's maybe a bright way to finish the podcast in regards. We do have Champions League football, regardless of our issues off the field. We are going to welcome Europe's best to Old Trafford this year. But so there are many negatives, which I've shared, no doubt about that. But there are positives. Mason Mount is a Manchester United player. Erik ten Hag has his man through the door. Fingers crossed if the club do their work in the right manner, we'll have a new goalkeeper through the door or a goalkeeper situation sorted in the next week or two. Now, it really should be done today. If players are returning to training, we should have a goalkeeper situation sorted. Even if it's telling David, hey, you're not welcome back, go. This sort of speculation, everyone kept in the dark, it's not going to help anyone. I just think we do need to address this goalkeeping issue. Fingers crossed. I believe, look, I'm a fan of David De Gea. I believe it needs to be Onana now in regards to if Erik ten Hag does believe he's the man to take us forward, get that deal done. And not just get the deal done in terms of before the deadline. It needs to be done before they go to the USA Tour because they need to sort of prepare themselves best for pre-season training because that's completely going to change the way we play football. So that is where a lot of the pre-season focus will definitely be. Swing it back to a negative in regards to the Mason Greenwood situation. It is what it is. But positives and negatives around Manchester United at the moment, no doubt. No doubt about that. Yeah, Charlie here, 6 days until first. Yeah, I thought it was around about a week. I think it's Leeds. I'm not sure. It's a weird tour. We're playing here, we're playing there, we're playing on this side of the country, we're playing in Europe, then we're in America. There's days we're playing on a Wednesday and a Thursday. It's a very weird pre-season. So the good thing about that, I think we'll see a lot of the young players in terms of they'll be getting involved and have the ability to take their chance, fingers crossed. So I think in pre-season games are very boring. They kind of go through the motions, but it does, if you are a fan of the youth or you do like to see these young players given a chance, it does bring a bit of excitement because if a young player comes in and scores a hat-trick, obviously very unlikely they're going to do that. But if they do that, well, you can't really drop them. You've got to keep them around. So, it'd be great to see one or two young players. I'd love to see, it won't happen just physically. And I don't know his age. I don't know. He might be 16. I'm not sure. I think he might be 16 now. But Shea Lacey, if anyone's seen Shea Lacey, he's special. And I just think I'd love to see him on pre. I don't think just physically, I don't think it's worth putting him in a senior game at the moment. But if you haven't watched Shea Lacey, he's a player. Unfortunately, it's sort of think straight away when you watch him play, you think he's so reminiscent of Phil Foden in terms of the way he plays the game. But you'd love to see Shea Lacey in and involved, even just training during pre-season, because if someone is going to be a future star at Manchester United in that current group of young players, he's that kid. So I'd love to see him on pre-season, but probably a little bit too soon for him. Charlie, confirming Leeds. And look, he's a very slight boy, Shea Lacey, so probably not right to throw him in yet. But obviously, ability-wise, there's no doubt about it. But I would wait until he gets a little bit of a growth spurt. Be patient with him. Still got plenty of time. I think he's only 16, to be fair. So definitely don't need to rush him. No doubt about that. But look, I do appreciate everyone in the live chat and keeping us going. So as I said, I'm not sure where Larry is. Fingers crossed. Okay, he's supposed to be meeting us at the pub this weekend, so good to get a traditional pubcast out. But I do appreciate everyone keeping the chat going. Sometimes a little bit tricky doing it solo, but good to chat about. Doing about 50 minutes, so I do appreciate that. Very enjoyable. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like on your way out. Be very much appreciated. Or leave a like for Mason Mount. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell, so when you do hit that, whenever we do go live, you get a notification. You can come in and have your say, as I do my best to read out all the comments. So it is a good interactive podcast compared to, not to be critical of the bigger channels, but sometimes you go to a bigger channel, got 1,000 comments. Do you really have your say? Probably not. So it's good to interact with everyone here. Dion, do appreciate that, mate. And until then, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't think we'll get any news because all the news broke yesterday in and around Mason Mount. So I think it'll be a quiet couple of days for Manchester United. But I'm sure there'll be something to discuss. And when it does, we'll be back. But until then, have a good day wherever you are, and chat to you in a bit. Cheers.